All right, Amy, let's do this. Let's kick this thing off and start the party here. It's all you.
So welcome, order management preview. John is our host today. He'll be walking through the new service, high level. More of the details will be at the Tech Summit, which we'll talk about in a minute. John is our education work group leader and our immediate past chair of the board. So if you would like to get more involved with education, I'm sure John would love to share some of these times with you each month. So
If you
feel free
want to put
reach out.
together a full PowerPoint deck and present for 45 minutes every month, I would love if you would join our team. So if that's your passion, come aboard.
Yes. So real quick, just want to call out our mission statement. We're here to collaborate and create industry-leading open standards. We're the only open standard and for the industry to improve customer experience, reduce transactional friction, and effectively execute digital strategy.
We're also trying to reduce transactional fiction by getting all the bad data out of our industry. There's enough fiction going around out there.
So quick reminder, next month is our December educational webinar. It's going to be a year in review. So this is the first time we're going to do this. We're going to have all the board members. We're going to do a round table. We're going to talk about 2023 and talk about what's up for 2024. And that'll be December 19th at 2 p.m. So please feel free to join. If you have questions you want to ask, or if there's something particular you want us to talk about it, just put it in Slack and we'll be happy to address it. The next slide. Okay, so we've had a lot of requests of people asking what we're going to do in Vegas. So last year we did a lounge. If most of you remember, it was back in the East Tundra of PPI's Mandalay Bay. So this year we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have a suite in Mandalay Bay. It's going to be open from Monday to Thursday. And if you're a member of Promo Standards, you would have access to the suite. Couple different options here. If you just want to hang out, check your email, get off the show floor. If you want to have a meeting, you can book time with Jessica at admin@promostandards.org. We can set aside time for you. It seats 21 people and there's multiple rooms. So there'll be little quiet spots that you can go and hang out, have a meeting. There's also a TV, Wi-Fi. There'll be some refreshments and some entertainment throughout the evenings in between if we're not booked out. So between Becky and Jessica and I will always have someone in the suite. So feel free to reach out if you'd like to book times. And if you have any questions about the suite or anything too, you can also reach out to us and we'd be happy to answer those questions for you.
Yeah, the big purpose of this is that we realized that there's not always a quiet spot for tech promo standards people to have one-on-one meetings or larger meetings about promo standards integration topics. So, this is something we're opening up to members as a, member benefit. And, during the day, work with Jessica to, line up time slots. If you're like, hey, I want to meet with this person, we'll block off that time slot for you. During the evening, it's going to be more of a free-for-all. If you're, looking for something to do in the evenings and your dinner ended earlier, pregame, before dinner, really, we want to, just use this as a quote-unquote tech safe space to where when you're ready to get off the floor, we have a place for you to go. And then, the real thing is we can foster collaboration there, the better. What we did last year, and I think that large conference room style isn't our MO in Vegas. So we're gonna try something different this year. Foster some communication and, maybe foster some good times along the way. So
exactly.
Look forward to that.
Like John mentioned, if you're in between, engagements, like I am, I'm sure most of you are, you're booked from breakfast till like after dinner. So if you find yourself with a half hour, 20 minutes, and you want to just stop in and say hi, more than happy to have you there and visit with you. So the last thing before John gets started, I want to talk a little bit about the Tech Summit. It's going to be February 5th through the 7th. I'm sure you all know that by now with our social media. So we're going to have it at the Don Cesar. And most of you are familiar with this place. If you're not, you're really missing out. It's a beautiful place. It was just voted one of the top 10 hotels in Florida. So we're really excited that we were able to have our event there. There's going to be 3.5 days of content. So I put a high level agenda here on the slide. So please take a look. From the annual members meeting to breakout sessions for developers and for business, along with some hackathon panel presentations. We're going to, of course, have, our opening reception and dinner on the beach. So, and poolside, which is really beautiful. And then several keynote speakers. We still have one to line up for Wednesday morning, and we're looking for someone for product management, product like PIM management. So if anyone has a recommendation, we're still trying to lock down that keynote. But all your favorites are back, from roundtables to the local dine-arounds. And we're going to try something new with service provider implementation forms.
And
so
supplier.
Right, and supplier. So you can go to a roundtable, have discussions, or you can go to a supplier and ask questions if they're there about how to implement, maybe a deeper dive into some problems that you're having. Or if you want to learn more about one of our service providers, they'll be happy to talk to you during that time also.
Yeah, the goal there is, so for example, if you want to, implement with Raj and myself and Chaz and team at HIT, we'll be set up at a table. You can bring questions there, and we'll set up as many suppliers and service providers who really want to have those conversations, and then we just literally can have one-on-ones in this open type setting. Like I said earlier, a big thing is fostering that communication, fostering that connecting people. That's the time where if you have actual questions, you want to sit down and walk through the technical aspects of it. It's really not
one-on-one.
I think we're past the, hey, well, we offer order status, we offer inventory. It's more of like, hey, you have problems connecting with our stuff, we're going to get you some credentials right here, we're going to run through your implementations, we're going to plug you in, and you're going to walk away ready to go. So it's going to try to we're creating two tracks. We have a business track and a development track, and we're making sure that we're meeting the needs of both sides all the way through the agenda. So
right, and
I'm excited for it. So
yes, absolutely. And the format will be general sessions. We'll have some panels. We'll have one presentation piece, so a variety. And this year, based on the feedback we received from last year, variety of voices coming across in different avenues for you to learn and to network, so that we're all not sitting in a room together for the whole time. You'll have plenty of opportunity to network and have those one-on-one conversations with people that you need to advance your business goals.
Awesome.
And lastly, I want to thank our sponsors. So these sponsors have stepped up and have already committed, and I really appreciate it. As far as our ultimate sponsors, we're already sold out with Essent and Order My Gear and Distributor Central. Can't thank you all enough, along with commonsku and Sanmar, AWS, ASI, and Showdown. It's amazing how much support that Promo Standards receives in the industry. And when we're asked to hold spots and how many do you have, because I'm going to take them, it's a great feeling knowing that we're doing something right for the industry. So we have some remaining sponsorships left. I've left them on the side, and this week we've started reaching out about product sponsors. So if you'd like to be a product sponsor, we'd love to have you. Feel free to reach out to myself or Becky or Jessica, and we'll let you know what we've got going.
Awesome. Yeah. And, if there's few remaining spots, I would say, we will do our fair share of those who attended last year, and making sure we recognize all the sponsors and get everybody involved. So thank you for everybody doing that. So anything else, Amy, before we dive into this?
Is there a question real quick? Is there a time in Vegas that the group of Promo Standards will all be together?
If you'd like to suggest one, we could certainly do that. I would say evenings would probably be more conducive. I think that Monday, the earlier the evening, the better. I think once Wednesday and Thursday late roll around, people start leaving town.
Right.
I would say the most people in the community would be there Monday, Tuesday. I think you see a lot of tech people leaving Wednesday morning. I just, from my experience, like get in Sunday, stay Monday, Tuesday, and leave Wednesday. So we'll try to maybe set up a lunch on Tuesday or something, Amy. Maybe
Yeah, I
where
was
we could
just-
have just do that. And we'll make sure that everybody's there. So I guess this is how things roll around here. So impromptu, we'll just block off maybe Tuesday at noon or something and try to make sure we have enough Promo Standards people there.
Absolutely. Jessica and I will get working on that and see what we can look at what PPI has on the schedule. I know they normally do a tech networking session, so we can see what that's about when that's scheduled, and just we'll try not to conflict with anything that's going on out there. So Jessica and I will work on that over the next couple of weeks. I know the invites for Vegas activities are starting to come in already. It's like, oof, a little they're coming in hot and heavy. So we'll try to get that scheduled out and communicated in the Slack general channel as soon as possible.
Awesome. All right. Let's hit this running here. So as Amy mentioned earlier, this is an order management preview. I'm going to kind of talk about this and where this came from and what the needs are. I think what we want to do is hit this at a high level. We want to get people interested. Two things: to use this time between now and Tech Summit to, maybe engage with our beta testing community. If you want to be an early adopter, we'll kind of throw those opportunities out at the end. Our goal here is to have this locked down and live and hit the launch button at Tech Summit, like the second or third day of Tech Summit when we roll out our new initiatives. This is going to be one of them. In order to do that, I think it's important that we preview some of this functionality to the community today so we can start prepping people. Some of it's, hey, this is coming down the pipeline. And some of it's like, hey, I'm ready for this today. Where do I sign up to implement? I think in the 7 years I've been doing this is probably the most exciting service to me. I think there was some PPC, for those of you who have done these, I've been pushing invoice status for years, saying it's a low-hanging fruit. I think this one has the chance to make the largest impact on the industry. A lot of people can say, hey, we exchange inventory, we exchange order status. I think this is where we start to see significant improvements and disruption in ROIs. So, I guess I'm a bit passionate about this. I know the standards committee is really passionate about this and, kind of looking forward to it. So, I couldn't do a presentation anymore without trying to create graphics and ChatGPT / DALL-E 3 or whatever version we're on now. So, I put in the prompt last night and create a meme graphic for Promo Standards new launch of the order management service coming soon. This is what it came up with. Spelling errors. ChatGPT doesn't care about spelling errors apparently, but this is what the internet thinks about what we're doing today. So just had to throw that in there. Okay, so how do we get here? Why do we need an order management service? So those of you who have implemented purchase orders 1.0 specifically, you probably realize that it's a kind of set it and forget it. You blast in your PO to the supplier and you hope it's right the first time. And if it's not, well, too bad. You're going to have to handle a lot of that offline. I got to give a shout out to the standards committee. The initial alpha versions of purchase order had a version field. And then there was a lot of, I guess, confusion on how it would be implemented to where if you kept firing in different versions, the same PO number with override, or what were the diff checks that the supplier was going to have to do to see what changed. Ultimately, in the 23rd hour that was removed before it went live, some of it was probably for the right reasons. It was, going to be a kind of a big gray area over the standard. So, but unfortunately what that did is kind of left us hanging without a way to modify purchase orders. We've known this is a problem, and I think adoption is finally on the purchase order standard is at the point where it's a problem we have to solve and can't avoid. And here we are today. So how do you modify a PO prior to order management service? You pick up the phone, fire off some emails, you handle it offline, right? So then you get this disconnect between the initial XML that was sent over and processed in suppliers through a supplier's business logic, and what the end product is. So causes problems for invoice vouching. Just there's a whole host of it. So that's okay. We've solved this problem, or we're solving this problem. So kind of before we get into the nitty gritty here, hold on, coffee machine gets business done here. So what's the kind of the whole idea and purpose behind order management? We really want to pick off those frequently communicated issues or things that change, right? We as suppliers and distributors polled our customer service teams, our order entry teams, and we're like, hey, what's the top 3? What's the top 4? What are the big things that change on an order, right? We all know that, at any given time, anything can change, but we wanted to pick off the highly transactional ones and create automation solutions into those. So that's really, you'll see as we move forward, did we solve for everything? No, you can't change the terms or the PO number on your PO, but, we solved for what we polled the industry and found with the highest transactional wins that we can get. You're going to see something, and I know for those of you, probably if Erwin or the Haler crew's on here, I'm going to dive into, and we'll show this live at the Tech Summit, but I'll dive into this is the first input to implement what we're calling a callback structure. So you'll see this callback URL feature as we go through the request, and I'll dive into those in a second here. Essentially, it's a webhook, right? It's if this is a success, go out, hit this URL. If it's a failure, go out, hit this URL. So it's create timeliness of that back and forth communication that isn't always having to authenticate and go through another XML post. Another thing is, there's some time sensitivity to the actionable methods. So suppliers, you might not always be able, so we want to develop something where we understand that not everybody can transact these in real time. So we've built in that flexibility to where you're either going to handle this live, when you post it through, say, hey, I'm going to cancel my order. You could either say, okay, this is a success, or you post a success, or you can say, hold on, I'm not sure we can do this right now. Then we built in some of those mechanisms. So, we're going to dive and roll through the actual functionality here for a second. Like I said, our goal is on stage in Tampa or in St. Pete Beach at the Tech Summit is to have it live, fully working supplier ERPs, distributor ERPs, and service provider ERPs communicating back and forth via order management service. So we have this in alpha right now at HIT, and we've been working through the onboarding process to make sure that we can support all the needs, and this thing works. So there's 6 basic methods, and I'll go through the first few, and then we'll kind of explain some of the logic behind it. So you can pretty much what we've done is separated the updates and the managing your orders into their own methods. So what this allows it to do is allows it to scale. So why did we, instead of creating one monolithical method that handles all these different scenarios, I think it was just too complicated. What if a supplier can't support that level of detail? Right? We wanted to make this to where suppliers, distributors, service providers can kind of pick and choose what they offer. Right? If your biggest thing, and it's probably the business doesn't want to hear this, is allowing for canceling of orders. Maybe you don't want to support canceling orders. Well, you get to pick and choose which methods you're going to support. And for the community who's been saying not all suppliers support everything, we've built in a method to actually communicate that for the service. So we've essentially created this a la carte service where, based on your business needs and abilities, can implement methods that make the most sense for your business. So there's essentially 4 main order management methods here, and then there's the 2 that kind of help it along. So You can cancel an order. We're gonna get into all of these in a second. So if you have questions, I know. You can cancel an order. You can change the shipping address and all the shipping information that goes along with it, carrier and all the fun stuff. You can, this is kind of a big lift here, change the order items. So that's the, getting to the line item detail and modifying things. Skip this one here because we're gonna come back to it. You can send order documents, right? That's kind of a big deal. A lot of the communications back and forth in the industry are, hey, I forgot to send you my art, or my art changed, or this drop ship list, this Excel file changed, that whole communication back and forth is done via email today. And it's kind of gross. Why do we stop at 4? Because these were the top 4 that when we pulled the industry: canceling orders, changing addresses, changing the address has some date information built into there, changing order line item details, and then cleaning up those missing documents for orders. You name it, it can all be in there. So then there's the 2 other services. We're going to dive into all this in just 2 seconds. Is the message statuses. That's what I alluded to, where you can handle this online or in real time. You could pretty much say, hey, I sent you a request to cancel my order. Well, you kicked me back, message ID 1234. What's the status of that? Were you able to do this, or is this something that, and you can kind of check back in at a timely manner to check on the status of your initial request. And then most importantly, which the community has been asking for many services, is that get service methods, right? So that says, I at supplier hit, which of these methods do we support? And then we return all those methods. So if you called the get service methods for hit, we would return all of these methods saying that, hey, we return them. Now, maybe another supplier only wants to handle shipping address changes. So that's what they would return. So it's just a good way to build out your data dictionary and your library of who supports what without hammering through them and getting errors and getting frustrated with the results. So that's the big picture. And I guess as we go through community feedback and more community feedback, or the business needs change, we can always bolt on additional methods, right? If somebody's like, hey, we need to, I don't know, change lead time, or I don't know, change anything on the order, we can bolt those on as additional methods as the industry changes. So we like that flexibility, where we really don't have to blow up the system to do that. So, and bear with me, you're gonna see some screenshots here, and this is mainly, it's not just some sort of mythical pushed out. My internet connection's unstable. That's awesome. All right, so canceling an order. All right, it's not a lot of details to go along with this, but basically, the way this is going to work is pretty much you hammer in, web service version, all the stuff you've seen at every endpoint, and you pass in your order attributes, which you're saying, what's your PO number, sales order, what are the different bits of information that you have. You pass that in. Now, why did I show this? I really want to focus on this callback URL. So let's say we're going to use Amy as a service provider, calling on behalf of Brand Boulevard, a Facilis member. So if Brand Boulevard comes to the hit endpoints and posts all to say, hey, web service version 1, username, password, my PO number 1234. It's interesting. I want to cancel this order. Now, what they're going to do, now notice this is optional, but we want to build this in because I think this will be highly effective, is when Brand Boulevard, aka Facilis, passes me in this request, they're going to say, if this is successful, this is the callback URL to designate a success. Then they're also going to pass back a URL that says this is the callback URL to designate a failure. So what we would do internally is we'd process this request. Now, we process them real time, but at the scale we have, this might not happen in a matter of seconds or a few to where we can return back an immediate response. So what you would get at hit, and when you submitted this, is over the course of probably the next minute, we would process through through our business logic, make sure that this order is at a point where it can or can't be canceled. And then we would call back your URL, your callback URL, designating it as a success or a failure. Now you're going to see every method that has this order management aspects in it has that exact same functionality in it, right? So that's, it's essentially our version of webhooks, right? It's just a Promo Standards webhook. I'm going to dive into this a little bit, more detail. So the change order item allows us to request we change the order item. So you can pretty much change at the quantity, product, or part level. What's a use case for this? Hey, I ordered 100. I actually need 200, or I ordered the red one, but I really wanted the green one because when a customer changed their mind due to inventory constraints. So yeah, let's just dive into this. So same thing. There's a few go back forward there. There's a few pieces to this. So very similar to the request before, but there's a kind of a nuance here. So in this method, you pass in username, password, all that fun stuff. The order object, which is your purchase order number, your supplier sales order number, the thing that identifies your order. It's important. That's required. You can also pass in, hey, here's the line items that I want to modify. We're going to get into that. But hold on, what I'm mainly showing this is the issue ID. So what we've been doing at Promo Standards is making sure that and that's why you've seen some version 2 of standards, is now the endpoints and services are starting to play along with each other. For those of you who've done order status 2.0 or consumed it from companies who have adopted like us, you'll realize that in order status 2.0, there's this concept of issue IDs. So if you're trying to resolve holds, every hold that happens at HIT or at whatever supplier you're implementing with has an issue ID. So now you can start to reference your issue IDs in these updates. So if the hold was inventory change or inventory insufficient inventory or inventory hold, you can then pass that issue ID into here, and it helps the supplier know that that's the issue you're resolving. So just from a workflow standpoint, the way that a lot of suppliers handle orders coming in is you send in, a PO comes in, we process it, and as always going through, they're like, all right, missing ship address, put that on hold. Missing price or price is wrong, put an issue out for a bad price. And then, humans come along and they resolve these holds. So what we're doing here is replicating that human process by taking those hold IDs and now tying that back with the order management service, which can then resolve these issue IDs as we process through the service. I'm going to get into that order line array in just 2 seconds. Same deal, callback URL success. So if you say, hey, HIT, I want to change the 50035 from red to white, then, if we can do that, if it's in the right part of the process where it's not too late, we'll tell you, yes, it's a success, or we'll say, no, it's too late to do that. Womp womp. Better go try to cancel your order quick. Maybe you'll have more success there. So really it's back here. So that order line array object. So what is that? It's essentially saying, what's the product ID? It's kind of important. What's your line number? So line number is required, right? Because you can have the same product ID on 7 different lines. This is that mapping. So I would say this works well. You've submitted an electronic purchase order because we know what your line number is. If it's a single SKU purchase order, which is, I would say 90+% of the industry's purchase orders, you can always just assume 1 and hammer through a 1. Best practice committee probably won't like that though. But then you also specify part ID, right? If you're really trying to get granular, hey, on the 40-ounce tumbler, this is the red one. Here's the part ID. It was line item number 1. On my PO, it was line item number 2. Just say there was a disconnect, and then the quantity. So what are you trying to change on that quantity? And then you're saying, go in here, change the quantity. Here's my unit of measure, and hammer this through. So that's kind of a, high level. I know I'm overly simplifying this, but if you're saying, hey, change this quantity to 0, I don't want it, or change this item to 1,000, here's the new quantity, that's what we do. Like we said, we poll the industry, and these are the number one issues that arise. Okay, next let's dive into the shipping address change. There's a bit more to this one. As you can see from our example request that Raj has posted over here, you see the request is quite beefy. So let's dive into this. So what's the concept here? A gross number of purchase orders come into our system with kind of TBD or TBA, and we get it, right? I mean, sometimes you have to get the order moving. You don't exactly know what address it's going to ship to. Maybe there's a few in there. So you kind of like, hey, send the PO in, get it processing, I'll get you an address later. This is where I'll get you an address later becomes an automated process, right? So let's walk through this. They're kind of, there's a few pages that this is a beefy one. So we'll come back, we'll go through this. So this is all in the request. So essentially the distributor service provider is communicating with the supplier saying, version, password, here's my order again. Is this a sales order? Is this my purchase order number? What's that unique identifier that says that we can both agree on what this order is? There's a shipping address object, a third-party shipping account object. Here's where you can say, hey, what's my request ship? So my requested delivery date. You can start passing in all these things. Now, what you're going to see is those 3 bottom fields again. Issue ID, right? That's probably, or actually, in reality, if you enter an order, send us an order today that doesn't have a shipping address, we're going to process this, but we're going to issue a hold, and we're going to return that in our order status service saying there is a order status hold for missing shipping address. Here's your issue ID. Pass that back in. It helps us resolve that, right? So you see how all this plays together. Same thing with the callback URL for a success and callback URL for a failure. So we're going to dive into the shipping address object and the third-party account object. But essentially, this is you posting to the supplier saying, here's a new address, here's a new third-party shipping information. They're not required. You can do one or the other. You could do both. You could kind of hammer in new request a ship date. You can request a new delivery date. Here's all the pieces you can do at the shipping address level. So what's in that shipping address object? Obviously, if you've implemented the purchase order or many of the new services at 2.0, we realize we've tried to standardize the shipping address object. So essentially, you're passing in a whole new set of information, your attention tos, your company names, your addresses, all that fun stuff. Now, this was kind of a debate, and I kind of don't like that it's in there, but I think welcome to our industry. There's also this comments field down here. I think a lot of what PromoServe is getting after is, don't take this the wrong way, removing the human touch element out of it. But it looks like, sometimes there's communication that has to happen. So there's this random comments field down at the bottom that I'm not a huge fan of. Same deal on updating your third-party shipping object. This happens a ton where it's like, hey, ship on my account. It's like, oh crap, the customer wants to ship on their account, and there's this whole host of emails back and forth. It's kind of a clunky process in the industry. So this provides that method to say, hey, this is the account name, account number, payment method, send it off. So no, not rocket science there, but this shows you this is the mechanism to do that. Okay. Pause here, take a breather, take a sip of water. But what you're seeing, what we've seen so far is we've allowed you to update your quantity for an item. You can set it to 0, you can set it to 1,000, you can do whatever you want. We've allowed you to cancel an order. We've allowed you to change your shipping address, your third-party or shipping account information. You're requesting ship dates, requesting enhanced dates. Those are the big ones. And now this one is unique. This is now, how are you going to append or send new documents for an order? So Yeah, let's go. So, obviously, no brainer here. The whole purpose of this is to cut back on the emails, right? Get an automated way, transfer documents that apply to a PO. I would say, and Steve kind of helped me with some of this write up. The biggest use case is artwork. I mean, it's what we do as an industry. What makes us unique. So we see a large use case for POs in. Didn't have the art when I submitted it. Here's a great way to send your art. Here's a great way to reference a new piece of art. We have actually enumerated the file types, the document types, to try to enumerate the biggest ones we see today that this is applicable to. So there's artwork, drop shipment, other, which is whatever, and then packing slip. So at least you can, as a supplier, implement these methods here. Implement, say, hey, when enumeration comes to artwork, this is what I do to it. I send it to my art team for processing, no problem. So then the other piece is, hey, it's a new drop shipment. Like for those of you in this time of year, this is very timely. These drop ship lists are a hot mess. They change constantly up until the last day before shipping. And then very common in our industry is, hey, use our custom packing slip. Here it is. So I think it allows a supplier to custom map some of these business rules for the services. And then if that you just hammer through other, so yep, let's go. Yeah, you're probably cringing here, but I'll just kind of walk through this and I'll kind of pick up the pace a little bit here. Same deal, right? Username or password, ID, same thing. Every promo standards service has. And then we dive into this document message array, right? So this is kind of the meat and potatoes of what you're sending through. So obviously, you see some things creep back into there that we've had in the past. We need to know what order, right? So that's it. You see that reusable order object that comes through, which is essentially, give me what this makes it unique. Is it your PO number, my sales order number, like some sort of other mysterious number in between? That's just how we tell it's unique. Issue ID, obviously very important. I would say one of the largest issues that we flag orders for internally is missing artwork. So you're going to be able to query our order status 2.0 saying, oh, so essentially is start with order status 2.0, find your issue IDs by order. Now come over and map those types of issues, which are, enumerated over there. There's different, numbers associated with different issue IDs. Now you can start picking them off and resolving them, passing the issue ID back to the service and calling it a day. So then continuing along here, what's your document object? Comments. I think this really plays, you see this come along with artwork a lot. You'll see just a lot of jinky things inside of the art file. Be like, hey, ignore these layers or use this, but convert it to white. If you've ever like managed an art queue, you see that's a giant hot mess, right? It's like, oh, remove the tagline. All that stuff goes into here, right? Because if it's a art file, 9 times out of 10, a human's probably touching it. Now there's a lot of cool artwork automation out there that's changing that world, but for now, that's what we're doing. Then we obviously have the same structure: callback URLs, callback successes and failures, no problem. So as you see, we realized that what makes our industry unique is the artwork piece. So we've tailored some of this document transmission to the artwork, the art placement object, right? So yes, and this is what makes promo standards unique to the promotion products industry. We could go out there and do the old 4-letter word route and adopt a automotive standard, but we realize, like, why is promo standards important in this industry? Because we understand the challenges of this industry. We tailor solutions and services and methods that are built to resolve our unique challenges, which is why we're not using some retail version of EDI, right? So off my soapbox there. Why? So we've built in functionality to, when you're passing in an art file, we've now have this art placement object type. So what does that mean? We realize that we're printing a t-shirt or a sweatshirt out here right now where it's got 4 different art files, 1 on each sleeve, 1 on the front, and 1 on the back. Right now, sometimes that'll come over as one file and it's all neatly put on there. The other time it's 4 different art files. Well, this is that way of how you relay to the supplier and the supply chain how that art is placed. Now, this is not required, but what we're saying is, okay, I'm sending you a file. It's for this product, which is a sweatshirt. This is the location ID, right sleeve. This is the location name. This is, oh, it's silk screen, not embroidered. And here's the line items that it goes with, right? This is the uniqueness part of our industry. So if if you have an art file that you're sending over, that's an update, and you have all this information saying, hey, change the sleeve, silk screen, art file, here it is. So that's that whole back and forth there. Obviously, if it's not art, if it's a drop ship or a packing slip, you can skip all that fun stuff. But this just shows you how powerful this is as we now look, in order to, I guess, provide that quote unquote Amazon-like experience, we need these levels of automation and system controls that remove the guesswork. Right? Today, if I get an art file and it's not specified where it is, and there's multiple locations, that's a phone call. That's an email. That's a proof. Proof has to go out and be like, is this where you meant for us to put it? But now I can say, this is the exact product location method where this art file goes. So that's kind of an important piece there. All right, so we're going to move on. So that's transmitting order files. Okay, so get message status, right? So we went through the 4, which was cancel, line items, shipping, file transfer, kind of big deal. I would say that's probably 95% of the industry's issues. So now this is a helper function that says, hey, I sent you a message. What's the, have you been able to do anything with this? So the response, and I've been omitting this to all these, the response that you're going to get on all of these is a message ID. So essentially you say, I want to cancel PO number 1234. We return back to you a message ID, and then we say, hey, you can now save that ID, say, I submitted at 2:04 today a request to cancel this order. HIT didn't tell me right away. They didn't call my callback URL. They didn't call my callback failure URL. So, but they gave me this message ID. So now this is where you can pretty much check back in on your pending and outstanding messages to see what the resolution has been. So kind of the text-based description is like, this can be used in conjunction with the callbacks if the supplier does not support the callbacks, or if you have offline. Sometimes, internally, if you want to change a line item, there might be an expediter that's going out there to look at that order and see if it's too late, right? So it's not always a business logic rule. It's hey, like we think it's in the pull queue. We haven't actually pulled it yet. Can we stop it there? So, this is really for those offline delayed following up on pending messages, right? So it's a way for you have all these outstanding requests to come back through your queue in an automatic way and clean up your statuses. So not a lot of rocket science there. So get service methods, right? This is, I've talked about this 5 times already today. It's, hey, which of these methods do you support? Right, they're enumerated in there. So it's pretty much HIT supports these, PCNA supports these, Gemline supports these. Now what functionality you can and can't do with each supplier. So same deal. You can read yourself, but it's just kind of know this is out there and it works today. Okay, I'm gonna take a breather here because I know I've puked a lot of text to people for the last 30 minutes. So today, we want to show you the functionality and where it's at. This is, and it's been approved by the standards committee. This is in full beta testing community review mode. What we're going to do at the Tech Summit is when we're rolling through new services, we're going to, like I said earlier, have full on demos of this. You need to see this in action, seeing what happens when a distributor and supplier communicate with each other, and sometimes a service provider in the middle. What does this transaction look like? What's a real callback URL? So we're going to have that live, and we're going to have case studies along with all of these, right? It's important to take the technical side of it and marry it with the business needs. we hopefully in the next, from today until February, we have community feedback, but we need to see how these things are being used in the wild, other than how we're using them in our own businesses, and make sure that we're meeting the needs of the large supplier, the small supplier, and then every distributor size all along the way, and service providers, right? It's important to have that inclusion, and that's where the feedback process comes with. And you will also be able to, our goal is there's a work group that has been managing this process for the last year and a half. They've been awesome. We want to make sure that we're giving the community access to that work group. Be like, hey, kind of like my only beef with it going through this is like, why did we put this comment field in there, right? It's more of those, sometimes if you understand the context and the use cases, some of these things just make sense. Sometimes, like the comments for me, they just don't make sense. One other thing, and I just got to figure I'd put this in there. I guess there are a few suppliers. I think Gemline is one of them. David Glenn, if you're on the call, or you can throw it in the chat. There are a few suppliers that have these beta endpoints. HIT's one of them. And I want to say Gemline's the other. What we want to start doing is signing up kind of beta implementers. It's important to make sure this stuff works outside of the standards committee. You can always reach out to me. You can communicate through Jessica if you're interested, and David Glenn, if he's on the call, he'll post his order management service in the chat. The goal is to get some of this in the wild, find people who are willing to make a little bit of sausage here, and iron these things out. But from the work that I've done with them, like obviously we have these endpoints out there and we've been testing them. It's pretty hot to see this thing work in real life. So I would say if you're thinking about going down this route as a supplier, you can definitely get engaged there. I would recommend that you go full circle and do order status 2.0 first, because then you get those optional issue IDs, right? And then some of this, I think if you're a supplier or service provider, you just are looking at this and thinking, what are the things I need to do and the small tweaks to make in my system today to support this in the future? I know in my past life, that was the big thing. It's like, well, how can we map internal issue IDs to promo standards issue IDs so to make this whole thing more effective? So, some of this is standardizing communication and then standardizing the way that, we can resolve these issues in the industry. Oh man, takeaways, no takeaways. No, look.
Come to Tech Summit to see the rest, right?
Yeah, takeaway. No, so I think here is, look, we designed this to be a modular bolt-on service where when the industry has additional needs to manage orders, we can bolt them on as new methods, and then suppliers can say, hey, this is what I'm adopting. Like I said, ultimately, and you're going to hear this from Amy and I till we turn blue in the face. Could go to Tech Summit. This is where, when we have those implementation roundtables, if you want to communicate with suppliers who are already doing this, some distributors who are doing it as well. I think I've talked to a handful that are planning on getting this up and running very quick. This is where you want to have those conversations. Be like, hey, what do you support? How do I get started with you? How quick? This is not a lengthy onboarding process like the PO, right? PO takes some meetings, takes some conversations, takes some testing. This, when done right, is, hey, trying to cancel my order. Like there's a more systematic process to this where it's not a heavy lift, especially if you're a distributor or service provider and you've been clamoring for years to try to modify orders already in-house. So I'm going to stop talking now. Amy, wrap this thing up for us.
Real quick, any questions? I know John is pretty much talked out, but I don't see questions. I think we got them all.
You can carry this over to the general channel as well, or carry it over to any of the Slack channels, and we'll engage there.
Right. Just a reminder, next month we have the roundtable. So if you want us to talk about anything specifically, please send ahead of time, or you can just ask questions while we're live and on the spot, because that's always fun. Also the suite, if remember, if you want to book some time there, if you want to book a meeting, you want to find out more details of what's available there, just email Jessica. We'll get you on the calendar and answer any questions that you have. And we will follow up shortly, trying to put together some sort of member get together where we're all in one place at one time, if possible, at PPI Vegas.
Yeah, sorry. I'd like to sign things, Amy, up for things that she hasn't agreed to live on education sessions that are
I live for
recorded
it. I love it.
and posted to YouTube for perpetuity.
Yes. And then lastly, with the tech summit, I'm still fine tuning the agenda and a lot of the content. So I appreciate everyone that's reached out and volunteered to be speakers. I know I've had some interviews, we've got some things that are pending. If you're still interested, or if you haven't reached out and you're interested in speaking or even volunteering, happy to walk you through that. We have a work group that meets every other week. We've kind of been on hiatus the last couple of meetings, but that'll kick back up, and probably we'll have another meeting or two in December. So if you want to be part of that planning process, just reach out, and I am me, or Jessica in Slack, and we'll be happy to put you to work.
Yeah, and as somebody who lives in Buffalo, New York, the month of February is downright miserable. And with snow and cold weather. And I was in Florida 2 weeks ago and popped by the Don with Amy and a few other board members. It's absolutely glorious. So there's
I'm not getting any grief about the party I wanted to put on the beach this time.
Yeah, I first was giving Amy a bunch of grief for having a beach party, but not anymore. So make sure you sign up.
81.
81. It's 21 this morning in Buffalo, New York. So yeah. What else we got? All right. So thank you, everybody. We did it. Successfully got through this. I guess from all of us Promo Standards, if you're in the US, happy Thanksgiving coming up here. If you're in Canada, we missed your Thanksgiving. It was like 6 weeks ago. So shout out to you people. But yeah, just third Tuesday of every month. We're doing this every month, no matter what. So thanks for coming along for the ride. So one time that we get to reach out to the community every month. So thanks for attending. And yeah, if you have any questions, carry them over to Slack. We'll chime in there.
Thanks, everyone.